Hi everybody, TheHande's here. So, I've been doing the He-Man episode review since 2012, and as you can probably guess, over time, there have been lots of mistakes I've made in prior videos. It's not something I try to hide, and in the past I used to put in corrections using YouTube's annotations. Unfortunately, annotations aren't a thing anymore, so now some of my old videos contain erroneous information without me being able to do much more than add notes in the video descriptions. So, in this video, I thought it would be fun to point out 5 big mistakes I have made in older He-Man videos, which always made me feel a little embarrassed. And before we get to them, I want to tell you what are some of the most common errors in my videos. Especially in early episode reviews, I had a tendency of flubbing over some plot details, and often this happened because I didn't bother rewatching the episode before I wrote the script. If I catch the mistake while editing, I've been known to actually put in a correction as a video text. This is something that happens a lot less in my newer episode reviews, but it does still occasionally happen. However, I do consider myself having a good memory for stuff, but as I'm about to point out, I do have a history of forgetting certain character appearances, especially in Season 2, but also occasionally in Season 1 of He-Man. And the reason is obvious. If a character doesn't have any spoken dialogue or just doesn't do anything noteworthy, I have a tendency of forgetting that they were in an episode at all. But enough talking. Let's get on with embarrassing myself. Number 1, Squinch's final and Negator's second appearances. Now, these are both pretty minor, plus in both instances I've acknowledged time and again that I've made this particular error. In the Witches episode's review video, I of course made the mistake of saying that Squinch the Widget's last appearance was in The Littlest Giant, but of course I completely overlooked his silent cameo in The Gambler. Now, I don't think this was that bad of a mistake. Like I said, Squinch is literally just part of the crowd, and I did include a text correcting myself. However, me forgetting Negator's second ever appearance was kind of funny because I totally remember the episode in which Negator did reappear. I just forgot he was in it. When I made the episode review for Game Plan, I lamented about how Negator never came back for further appearances, so you can imagine I had some egg on my face when a few months later I did the video What Does Orko Really Look Like? And discussed Trickster in the episode Trouble's Middle Name. I remember this episode very strongly and had always intended to discuss it because Trickster is the only Trollin we've seen who doesn't cover his face. So why did I forget that Negator was the villain of this episode? Probably because his plot didn't involve video games, which was literally the only reason I reviewed the game plan in the first place. I've had people post on my videos that they really like Negator as a villain, and I do too, to some extent. But you have to also admit, he's not exactly the most memorable villain from He-Man, which is also why I remember Trouble's middle name principally for Trickster. Still, I did feel silly enough about forgetting he was in the episode that I acknowledged it both at the end of What Does Orko Really Look Like? And when I eventually reviewed Trouble's middle name in the Temple of the Sun reviews. Number 2, Count Marzo's debut episode. Now, like I said, I pride myself for remembering He-Man episodes pretty well, but I have to confess that when I made the second bad episodes video in the He-Man Season 2 reviews about Count Marzo, I had managed to completely forget that he originally debuted at the end of Season 1 in the Once and Future Duke, which I also eventually reviewed in a separate video. My only defense for this is that I do remember the late Season 1 episodes way worse than the early or middle episodes, but no, this is not the mistake I'm actually referring to. The real mistake happened in the Once and Future Duke episode review, where I kept referring to the little kid as Philip. Why is this a big mistake? Well, his name isn't Philip, it's David. Okay, why did I suddenly switch the child character's name? Well, of course, if you remember Count Marzo's last appearance, The Search for a Son, Philip was the name of Mechanek's son, who Marzo was forcing to work for him. I seriously have no defense for this. I most likely did rewatch the episode before writing the script, but somehow my stupid brain got the names mixed up. Also, while editing, the only clip where I used audio from the episode was the one where Tila spoke, and they didn't mention David's name in that one. So yeah, that's how that one slipped the system. Number 3, Larry DiTilio and the Time Corridor. Now, this is not a mistake from a single video, but rather a misunderstanding that I've had about a certain episode for an embarrassingly long time. On my official blog, I've written about both my favorite He-Man writers and directors, and have noted that due to the high amount of episodes, He-Man had a really weird array of one-off directors, such as Bob Arkwright, who was normally responsible for the backgrounds, and who also directed just one episode. And that episode was Evil Seed, which is one of my all-time favorites. Even Filmation's co-founder Hal Sutherland has a director's credit for one episode. Therefore, I didn't even blink an eye when I discovered that He-Man's most prolific writer, the late Larry DiTillio, even directed one episode. That episode is the infamous Time Corridor, which is one of my favorite episodes to pick apart in past videos due to its nonsensical plot setup and terrible original characters. And I've even gone on record saying that maybe directing just wasn't DiTillio's true calling. Well, duh. That's because DiTillio didn't direct the Time Corridor. He wrote it, and here's the episode card to prove it. So, what led me to believe DiTillio had directed this episode? Wikipedia. Yes. Now, it's since been corrected, by me by the way, but for the longest time, several years in fact, the writing and directing credits for this episode had been inexplicably swapped around. Now, I have a pretty good memory, but I obviously don't remember who wrote every single He-Man episode, so of course I'm going to use external sources like Wikipedia to help me remember. But what makes this mistake that much more embarrassing is how many times I've used footage from the Time Corridor. In fact, it's part of my permanent collection of He-Man video files that I regularly pull from when I make videos. And I'm sure I've watched the episode from start to finish at least a half a dozen, if not a full dozen times. But while editing, I very rarely have need for the title card, since I just want to use a clip from the episode itself. So, I've kept making this mistake time and again. What makes this mistake all the more embarrassing is that DiTillio is my favorite He-Man scriptwriter, yet I've been unknowingly roasting his writing skills with this episode for years. So, sorry Larry, but in my defense, you did write one stinker of a He-Man script. Number 4, He-Man and She-Ra Christmas Special. So yeah, the previous mistake was caused by a faulty entry on Wikipedia, but this next one could have been avoided if I had just bothered to check Wikipedia before I wrote the script. This one is pretty cut and dry. In my review of He-Man and She-Ra Christmas Special, I mistakenly said that this was the very final He-Man and She-Ra property done by Filmation. But a quick look at Wikipedia would have revealed that this special aired in 1985 and not 86. That is to say, between the 2 seasons of She-Ra Princess of Power. I really have no excuse for this. I even had the annotation on almost immediately when the video came up on YouTube, and now there's no fixing the mistake. Yippee! And number 5, Ram-Man Season 2 appearances. This mistake just keeps on giving. I made this one originally in the introduction video for the He-Man Season 2 reviews, and it has never stopped haunting me since. Okay, so one big thing I of course spoke about in the video was how I hated having He-Man's classic allies, Stratos and Ram-Man, getting sidelined during Season 2 by a bunch of new toy-based characters. In this moment in the video, I talked about how Stratos only had one episode appearance during Season 2. Yes, I know he has a background cameo in the Christmas special, so that's not a mistake. I said he had only one appearance during He-Man's second season. However, in that same instance, I said Ram-Man only had 2 episode appearances during Season 2. The appearances I was referring to were, of course, The Shadow of Skeletor, where Ram-Man and Man-E-Faces have a falling out. It's not a particularly great episode, but I remembered it specifically for this reason. The second appearance I was referring to was, of course, Not So Blind, which is one of my all-time favorite episodes. But already, during the first bad episode reviews video of that series, I was forced to make an annotation correcting my mistake when I talked about Attack from Below, where Ram-Man was helping out in one battle scene. Just one though. That's at least a bit excusable. Ram-Man has a bunch of speechless cameos in Season 1, but at least he's in the episodes for almost the entire length most of the time. Me forgetting that he was just in one scene in an episode isn't that bad. But then of course, he's also in Battle Cat, which I reviewed last year, and had seriously completely forgotten he had any role in that episode. Largely because the second half of the episode is pretty dull. But wanna guess how many more appearances I'd forgotten about? 2. The Arena and the Toymaker. That's a total of 4 episodes I forgot Ram Man was even in. So maybe one day I'll get around to covering those episodes as well. Until then, I have the power, so can you.